Let's start our first news. Josh Hokit is sending a strong message to Dana White, and his target is Tom Aspinall. For weeks, Hokit has been calling out Alex Pereira and demanding a massive showdown. But now, the undefeated heavyweight has turned his attention toward Aspinall, calling for the UFC to take drastic action. Ever since Hokit stopped Derek Lewis at the White House event, speculation has been building around his next opponent. Many expected Cyril Gane and Tom Aspinall to run things back, leaving Hokit waiting for another opportunity. But according to Hokit, that situation could change completely if Aspinall remains inactive. In a series of posts, Hokit accused Aspinall of exaggerating his injury and criticized his recent business decisions. He argued that the heavyweight division needs an active champion, not someone sitting on the sidelines. Hokit even called on Dana White and the UFC to either strip Aspinall of the title or cut him from the roster. Hokit then laid out his own plan. He wants Cyril Gane next in 2026, believing a victory could push him directly into the title picture. He also made it clear that he is not avoiding Alex Pereira. However, Hokit believes the Pereira fight should be built up properly. In his view, Alex needs time to settle into the heavyweight division and rebuild momentum after his loss to Gane. Hokit wants to create maximum anticipation before eventually meeting Pereira, potentially for the BMF title. For now, though, Hokit has one clear demand. He wants the UFC to stop waiting on Aspinall, clear up the heavyweight picture, and give him the opportunity to face Cyril Gane. Meanwhile, Alexander Volkanovski has also hinted that retirement could be getting closer following his upcoming clash with Movsar Evloev. Move on to another news. Alexander Volkanovski has once again addressed the growing talk surrounding his retirement, and while he insists that he has no immediate plans to walk away, he also admitted that his upcoming fight could play a major role in determining what comes next. For months, fans have been wondering whether Volkanovski is approaching the final chapter of his incredible career. The former featherweight champion turns 38 in September, and after everything he has already accomplished, there is little left for him to prove inside the octagon. Recently, Volkanovski appeared to shut down suggestions that he was already planning his retirement. However, when discussing his future ahead of UFC 333, he made it clear that the outcome of his fight against Movsar Evloev could influence his decision. Speaking with Australia's 10 News, Volkanovski explained that he is taking his career one fight at a time. According to him, if things go terribly wrong and he suffers serious damage, retirement could become a real possibility. But if the fight goes smoothly and he comes out without significant damage, he sees no reason to stop. Volkanovski is currently coming off 2 convincing victories over Diego Lopes, showing that he can still perform at an elite level. That makes his upcoming clash with Evloev even more interesting, especially considering Evloev's UFC record. Despite being one of the most technically dangerous fighters in the division, Evloev has never recorded a finish during his UFC career. His fights have often gone the distance, meaning Volkanovski could potentially avoid the kind of devastating damage that might force him to reconsider his future. Still, Volkanovski is being realistic about where he stands. At this stage, every performance matters, every injury carries greater significance, and one difficult night could change everything. For now, retirement is not officially on the table. But depending on what happens at UFC 333, the legendary career of Alexander Volkanovski could be entering a very important chapter. Move on to another news. Joe Rogan has sparked a major debate after making some bold comments about former UFC champion BJ Penn and how he believes a prime version of Penn would match up against the greatest lightweights of all time. Rogan recently spoke about just how talented BJ Penn was during the peak of his career. According to Rogan, Penn was not simply one of the best fighters of his era, but a once-in-a-generation talent who could have given any lightweight in history serious problems. During a recent episode of his podcast, Rogan made it clear that he would put prime BJ Penn at 155 pounds against absolutely anybody. However, the comments became even more controversial when he mentioned how Penn might have matched up against Khabib and Islam. Rogan admitted that he could not say for certain that BJ Penn would have defeated either man. He still considers Khabib one of the greatest fighters in MMA history. and recognizes the incredible dominance both Khabib and Islam have shown at lightweight. But according to Rogan, facing a prime BJ Penn would have been an absolute nightmare for both of them. He pointed to Penn's unbelievable natural ability, his technical skills, and the physical condition he reached during the best period of his career. Rogan explained that when Penn was fully prepared, training intensely, and developing an incredible gas tank, he became a completely different type of fighter. In Rogan's view, BJ Penn was a phenom, combining elite grappling, striking, athleticism, and an instinct for fighting that very few athletes have ever possessed. That is why he believes Prime Penn deserves to be included in almost any hypothetical discussion involving the greatest lightweight fighters of all time. However, not everyone agreed. Rogan's comments quickly received a wave of backlash online, with several fans arguing that the comparison simply does not hold up. Some pointed to Penn's later losses, including his defeats against Frankie Edgar, while others argued that Khabib and Islam's wrestling dominance would have been too much for him. One fan criticized Rogan for making hypothetical claims that can never truly be proven, while another argued that the dominance produced by Khabib's team at 155 pounds is unlike anything the division has ever seen. Others were even more direct, claiming that while BJ Penn was undoubtedly a great fighter, Khabib and Islam would have been overwhelming matchups for him. The debate has now divided fans between those who believe prime BJ Penn was talented enough to challenge anyone, and those who believe the dominance of Khabib and Islam places them on an entirely different level. Move on to another news. Conor is officially firing back after Max Holloway's recent comments about his appearance, and the exchange between the two UFC stars is getting more personal by the day. It all started when Max Holloway shared his thoughts on Conor's performance and appearance during their recent fight. Max didn't hold back, claiming that Conor looked old and slow when he stepped into the spotlight. Those comments quickly made the rounds online, with fans debating whether Max was simply speaking his mind or trying to take another shot at his longtime rival. But Conor was clearly not going to let those comments slide. Last night, Conor responded in a way that immediately caught the attention of fans. Instead of posting a direct video response or launching into another lengthy rant, Conor shared what appeared to be a ChatGPT conversation. He used a photo featuring himself and Max Holloway and asked the AI a simple question about which of the two fighters looked older. According to the response shown by Conor, the AI selected Max. The explanation claimed that Max appeared older in the particular image because of his more weathered appearance, visible lines around his eyes, and the way the lighting highlighted the texture of his face. Meanwhile, the response suggested that Conor appeared to have a more polished look in the same photo, even with his full beard. Conor then added his own caption, taking a direct shot at Max and making it clear that he was not impressed by the criticism coming his way. He mocked Holloway's appearance and questioned why Max was suddenly talking so aggressively about him. The post quickly sparked another wave of reactions across social media. Some fans found Conor's response hilarious and praised him for finding an unusual way to clap back. Others pointed out that using AI to settle an argument over appearance was hardly the most reliable way to prove a point. Either way, the exchange has added even more fuel to the rivalry between Conor and Max. What started as criticism over looking old and slow has now turned into a full-blown social media battle, with both fighters trading shots and giving fans plenty to talk about. For now, Conor has made his position perfectly clear. He is not accepting Max's comments without a response, and this latest AI-powered comeback has made sure the conversation remains firmly in the spotlight. Move on to another news. Tyron Woodley believes his name deserves more respect when it comes to the MMA GOAT conversation, and he recently explained exactly why he thinks his accomplishments should not be overlooked. For longtime MMA fans, there was a period when Woodley was genuinely discussed as one of the greatest welterweights in UFC history. That conversation became especially loud during his championship run, when he successfully defended the welterweight title multiple times and established himself as one of the most dominant fighters in the division. Now, ahead of his wrestling match against Joaquin Buckley at RF 12, Woodley spoke with Helen Yee and gave his thoughts on the current GOAT debate. when discussing Islam and the incredible accomplishments that have placed him among the biggest names in the sport, Woodley made it clear that the conversation is often a matter of perspective. He acknowledged the legendary achievements of fighters such as Anderson Silva, John Jones, Demetrius Johnson, and GSP, saying those names clearly belong at the very top of the discussion. But according to Woodley, things become more subjective after that. Woodley suggested that if fighters like Ilya and Alexander Volkanovski are being included in certain GOAT discussions, then his own name should also receive consideration. From his perspective, the standards being used to rank the greatest fighters should leave room for what he accomplished during his championship reign. He also praised Islam's consistency, discipline, and ability to remain focused, saying those qualities could help him continue building an even stronger case as one of the greatest fighters in MMA history. However, Woodley's own legacy has been complicated by the way his UFC career ended. After reaching the top of the welterweight division, Woodley suffered a difficult stretch that included 4 consecutive losses, bringing his UFC run to an end. His later knockout loss to Jake Paul also became another major talking point whenever fans discussed his overall legacy. Still, Woodley appears to believe that a difficult ending should not completely erase the accomplishments that came before it. At his best, Woodley was a UFC champion, a multiple-time title defender, and one of the most dangerous welterweights of his generation. While his name may not appear in every modern GOAT debate, he clearly believes his achievements deserve a place in the conversation, alongside some of the sport's biggest legends. Move on to another news. We have a huge new UFC fight announcement, as Rafael dos Anjos is reportedly set to make his long-awaited return to the octagon. According to Igor Michinello of ESPN Brazil, Rafael dos Anjos will return to action after nearly 2 years away from competition. The former UFC lightweight champion is expected to face Alex Hernandez at lightweight, with the matchup reportedly scheduled for UFC 332 on October 3rd in Salt Lake City. This will be a major moment for the 41-year-old veteran, who has spent an incredible amount of time competing at the highest level of MMA. Rafael dos Anjos has not fought since October 2024, when he suffered a TKO loss to Jeff Neal after tearing his ACL. That defeat also marked his 3rd consecutive loss, making his comeback even more important as he looks to prove that he still has something left in the tank. His opponent, Alex Hernandez, is also looking to bounce back. Hernandez most recently suffered a decision loss to Rafa Garcia in April, a result that snapped his 4-fight winning streak. That makes this matchup especially interesting. On one side, you have a seasoned former champion attempting to turn back the clock after a lengthy layoff and a serious knee injury. On the other, Hernandez will be looking to rebound and start another winning streak. For Rafael dos Anjos, this could be one of the most important fights of the later stage of his career. At 41 years old, the biggest question is whether the veteran can still perform at the level that once made him one of the most respected lightweights in the UFC. Meanwhile, another fight has also reportedly been revealed. Andrei Petroski announced on Instagram that he will face middleweight Azamat Bekaev on an upcoming UFC Fight Night card in Las Vegas. With UFC 332 already beginning to take shape, these latest additions are giving fans even more reasons to keep an eye on the October schedule. Move on to another news. Sean Strickland may have just landed one of the biggest deals of his career, with reports suggesting that his latest agreement could potentially be worth as much as $20 million. Now, before getting carried away with that number, there is an important detail that needs to be made clear. The reported $20 million figure has not been officially confirmed, and it appears to be speculation surrounding a potential 1-year deal. Because of that, the exact value of Strickland's agreement remains unclear. A contract worth $20 million for a single year would be an enormous payday, especially in the world of MMA. So it is important to treat that number as unverified rather than an established fact. Still, regardless of whether the final figure comes anywhere close to $20 million, Strickland appears to have done very well for himself. The outspoken former UFC champion has built one of the most recognizable personalities in the sport. His blunt interviews, controversial opinions, and willingness to say exactly what he thinks have made him one of MMA's biggest attractions. That popularity can translate into serious money outside the octagon, and this latest deal could be another example of Strickland turning his massive fan following into a major business opportunity. The reaction has already been mixed, with some fans focusing on the enormous number being reported, while others are simply giving Strickland credit for securing a lucrative opportunity. And honestly, whatever the final amount turns out to be, getting the bag is what matters. The deal has also sparked plenty of discussion because Strickland has become increasingly comfortable expanding his presence beyond fighting. Whether it is interviews, appearances, or advertising opportunities, his personality has become almost as recognizable as his fighting style. The advertisement connected to this deal even received some attention, with the original commentary joking that, at least this time, the ad was not completely unwatchable. For Strickland, this could represent another major step in building his career beyond simply competing inside the UFC. Meanwhile, there is also another developing story involving Jon Jones. Last month, reports surfaced concerning alleged leaked direct messages involving Jones and a woman, creating another wave of discussion around the former UFC champion. With both stories generating attention, MMA fans have plenty to talk about. But Strickland's reported deal remains the big headline, especially with the $20 million figure still waiting for official confirmation.